If you criticise the religion of peace, you're likely to be accused of hate speech by people who will go on to abuse and to threaten you as graphically and disgustingly as their fevered imaginations will allow, yet you'll be the one guilty of hate speech. And if you're unlucky enough to live in certain parts of Europe, you'll also be prosecuted as a criminal. Anyone who thought that Denmark's experience with the cartoons might encourage that country to grow a backbone will be dismayed to hear that Denmark is the latest European country to persecute its own citizens for telling the truth about the religion of permanent offence. This week, Lars Hedegaard, president of the Free Press Society, is on trial in Denmark for accurately referring to the comparatively high number of family rapes in Islamic culture. As most people know, violence against women and girls is one of the things that make Islamic culture distinctly inferior to Western culture. Not different, but significantly less civilized. However, the Danish authorities would like people to pretend that Islamic violence against women and girls doesn't exist, because otherwise they might have to do something about it. And that's the last thing they want, because that would mean rioting in the streets and barricades and burning cars and all the rest of it. And Danish people travelling in Muslim countries might also be attacked and killed, so they'd rather pretend it isn't happening and criminalise anyone who says it is. It's much safer for them to victimise their own people because they know there won't be any rioting and nobody will be murdered. In this trial, as with the other two show trials currently underway in the Netherlands and in Austria, the truth is no defence, because this is not about establishing the truth or upholding the truth, which is what justice is supposed to do. It's about suppressing the truth to appease the threat of Muslim violence, which makes it an act of cultural terrorism. And it's compounded by the fact that we haven't heard a word about any of this from the Western media, the so-called free press, who seem to want to keep it as their little secret. If not for the internet, nobody would even know this trial was happening, or the one in Austria for that matter. Causing offence is now a crime in several European countries. Doesn't anyone in the Western media have anything critical to say about that at all? Or are they all too stupid and complacent to realise that these laws also threaten the freedom of the press, as well as that of ordinary people to express an honest opinion? One of the most pernicious lies of our time is the lie that all cultures are equal, when they're clearly, visibly, provably not even close to being equal. They're barely on the same planet as how unequal they are. But we walk on eggshells over this in the West because we're so riddled with post-imperialist guilt, which for some reason we've decided to regard as a chastening virtue and not as a crippling curse. When you allow millions of people to immigrate from places where they mutilate their daughters as a matter of course, where they kill them in a heartbeat over some twisted sense of honour, and where rape victims are treated as criminals, it doesn't take a genius to know that you're going to be importing these values and attitudes as well, wholesale, unless you take steps to prevent it. And that's something we've spectacularly failed to do in Europe. Indeed, we've encouraged it by fostering separatism and ghettoisation in the guise of our old friend multiculturalism. And as a consequence, Islamic violence against women and girls is an ugly reality in Europe. And for anyone to use the law to try and suppress discussion of it is not enlightened or tolerant or liberal. It's shameful and stupid and cowardly and unforgivable. It's cultural pollution at a criminal level. And if you live in Europe, your grandchildren will pay the price, and they'll despise you and everyone else alive today for letting it happen. Our civilization was fused in the crucible of opposing ideas freely expressed. That's the magic secret. It's the gold standard that made us what we are and made our society the most advanced in human history. And we have an obligation to uphold that standard, no matter what, for the sake of future generations. Despite the avalanche of rights we've been showered with in recent years, ducking out of this is one right we don't have, because without the right to speak your mind, all other rights are worthless. Free speech is not the property of this generation of spineless appeasers. It's as intrinsic and essential a part of our identity as the Quran is for Muslims, and nobody has the right to restrict it or to modify it, regardless of who claims to be offended. Anyone who insists on being offended is welcome to grow a thicker skin or go and live somewhere else. And if they don't like that, they can go to hell, and that includes all public prosecutors and the horse they rode in on. Peace. Can I say that?